FM in Burpees and 99.1 FM in Demerara and Essequibo.
This is the news on top of the hour.
Live from our studio in Georgetown.
Kaieteur Radio, 99.1 FM.
Time check for you, 12 hours 1, and a very happy Holi to you. My name is Amrita Koshal, and this is your main newscast. Without further ado, let's get to the news in detail. An analytical review of Guyana's legislative framework for the oil sector has unearthed concerning instances of disharmony which could work against the interest of the state. Specifically, experts at the Inter-American Development Bank have said such friction exists in the Petroleum Exploration and Production Act 1986, the Environmental Protection Agency Act 1996, and the Maritime Zones Act 2010. In a technical report, the consultants highlighted that these three pieces of legislation not only have overlapping duties which could cause confusion, but also contain vague language regarding environmental standards which ultimately could allow oil operators enough scope to escape penalties for negligence. The experts warned that it is obvious to all observers that the term good oilfield practices may not equate to the principles established in the EPA Act and regulations made under it, as its ambiguity allows enough room for interpretation and legal challenge. They also concluded that the overlapping functions in the laws with respect to the environment not only lead to possible confusion among government entities, but more importantly, the disharmonious standards for safe environmental practices are potentially disastrous for Guyana, particularly but not only if an oil spill were to occur. And we now tell you the recent ruling by the Caribbean Court of Justice has set the stage for Guyana to amend its laws to curb the excessive power of the Director of Public Prosecutions. This is according to Attorney General and Legal Affairs Minister Anil Nanlal. The CCJ on Tuesday ruled in the case where the DPP Shalimar Ali Haq had ordered that Guyanese American businessman Marcus Bisram be committed to face a trial in the High Court for murder, despite a judicial ruling that there was not enough evidence against him. At the CCJ, Bisram's attorney, Darshan Ramdani, had asked the CCJ to strike down parts of the Criminal Law Procedure Act, which empowers the DPP to, inter alia, direct a magistrate to commit an accused person to stand trial in circumstances where the said magistrate, after conducting a preliminary inquiry, discharged that accused person. Nanlal said the government will be moving to amend the law. And moving on, the high cost of living might be heavy on the minds of consumers, but so too are the actions of some unscrupulous business owners who are engaged in price gouging. Some persons who spoke with the Kaieteur News are calling on the relevant authorities to address the matter, as they say the ongoing practice is adding unwanted strain on the already severe financial situation. We were told that while the economic changes brought about by the COVID-19 pandemic have been recognized, it appears that some shopkeepers are taking prices even higher now, owing to the ongoing conflict between Ukraine and Russia. The Competition and Consumer Affairs Commission told us that while some persons may believe that the body has regulatory powers to deal with matters of price gouging, the Commission does not perform that oversight role. And in other stories, the Amerindian People's Association has called on the relevant authorities to provide increased humanitarian support to the Warao migrants from Venezuela, who continue to seek betterment in Guyana and to address their needs as indigenous peoples with human rights. The APA said its call follows the recent inflow of migrants experienced by the Region 2 community of Kabakaburi and their forced relocation that followed just days after, even though the indigenous community began to support and have since indicated their willingness to support them. According to the APA, the migrants reportedly paddled for 8 to 10 days before arriving in Kabakaburi, where it was evident that they lacked food, clothing, and in some cases, medical attention. Additionally, the organization said that when village councils or villages extend their humanitarian arm, the government should support them. And the time has now moved on to 12 hours 6. We will return with more news for you shortly after the break.
This is GHK Lal inviting you to join me weekdays from Monday to Friday on the National Outlook for commentary on a range of issues. Immediately after the 12 noon and 7 p.m. newscasts on Kaieteur Radio at 99.1 FM and 99.5 FM. Looking forward to you sharing in the conversation.
Enjoy access to premium sports for free from March 14 to 20 on Sportsmax. Watch the final leg of Champions League round of 16. See who scores the most points to advance to the NBA playoffs. Action right at your fingertips. Plus 2 gigabytes of Sportsmax data every day to stream S-Max 1, S-Max 2, and the NBA TV channels. Not just watching, but loving the best sporting experience. Sportsmax, simply more sports.
And we now return with more news in detail. Tax credit remains a viable option when dealing with operators in Guyana's oil and gas sector instead of the tax exemptions that are causing the country to lose billions of dollars in this scenario involving ExxonMobil and its subsidiaries. As it stands, Guyana has lost some $137 billion in foregone revenues for the year 2020 alone, a sum GRA says represents 62.75% of total monies collected by the authority for that period. Economist Ramon Gaskin is adamant, therefore, that Guyana must review its tax provisions to prevent this sum from being significantly more given future oil production development. Gaskin explained that whereas the tax credit would allow Guyana to actually receive payments, it would also benefit the company paying, since they would not have to pay the total taxes owed based on credit incurred. Tax credit, by economic definition, is an amount of money that taxpayers subtract directly from the taxes they owe. And finally, we tell you a 57-year-old pedal cyclist was on Wednesday night killed when his bicycle collided with a car on Mandela Avenue, Georgetown. The dead pedal cyclist is Lyndon Austin of Go Slow 4th Avenue, Tugville, Georgetown. According to police report, 32-year-old Asif Mohammed of Vizelest Railway Embankment, East Coast, Demerara, was the driver of a motorcar that struck Austin. It was reported that Mohammed and Austin were both proceeding north along the western carriageway of the avenue when Austin allegedly attempted to cross the road and got in the pathway of the car. The front of the car struck Austin, causing him to be thrown onto the bonnet and windscreen of the vehicle. He was flung onto the paved road and suffered injuries to his body. Austin did not regain consciousness and succumbed about an hour later. And now time for your COVID-19 update. With no reported COVID-19 fatality, the Ministry of Health on Thursday revealed that 5 persons are in the COVID-19 ICU receiving treatment. 6 new infections were recorded, taking the total number of confirmed cases in the country to 63,175. 14 persons are now in institutional isolation, 138 in home isolation, and 11 in institutional quarantine. 61,792 persons have since recovered from the virus. And we now move on to the page 7 of the Kaieteur News, dedicated to being blunt. How is it that our society has become so intolerant and divorced from rational thinking? This is evident in the way many of us behave. The use of a weapon is often preferred over the spoken words to resolve a dispute. Then, instead of being concerned about the needs of the masses, there are those in authority who opt to burden us with their vision, which translates sometimes to projects that only benefit them. Except we band together with the common goal of making Guyana a better place for all, we will continue along a path of certain doom. Time check for you, 12 hours 11. My name is Amrita Koshal, and this was your main newscast right here on Kaieteur Radio. Do have a happy Pagwa.
Want value for your advertising dollar? Then place your ads on Kaieteur Radio's newscasts. Streamed live on 6 different mediums, reaching hundreds of thousands. Advertise today and watch your dollar grow. Call us on 225-8465 or 226-82.